Okay. Howdy, all. This is Joseph Holman. We are going to call to order our Compensation Committee meeting today. The time is 4:29. We are a few seconds early, but we'll keep going that way. So starting off, can we have confirmation of a quorum?
Confirmed.
Great, thank you. Do we have any items for any public comments?
No public comments.
No public comments. Do we have anybody who wants to say anything? Nobody ever does. Okay. Moving on, we're going to get to the first item for presentation and discussion. And this is presentation and discussion of proposed changes to the job description for General Manager and Chief Executive Officer. Howdy, how's it going, sir?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This item is simply to discuss some of the changes that we are undergoing for the General Manager and Chief Executive Officer's job description, reflecting some updates. On here, we've got some definitions, just letting the committee know the purpose of the job description. The purpose for these updates, once again, is to align the duties of the General Manager and CEO with BPB's priorities, as the last time that this job description was reviewed and signed was in September of 2016. Most of the proposed changes are for standardizing language, realigning with our rebranding, or aligning with our rebranding rather, that was recently proposed, and we are now is now being reflected on all of our printed media and such. We want to ensure that all compliance standards are met through all these updates, and then finally matching verbiage with other executive job descriptions, once again to align current duties, or better align current duties. There was one particular change that was done to the job duties themselves, and again, that was really to focus on some of the realignment that have come across with the addition of some of the members of the executive team. Are there any questions?
Not right now.
Thank you.
Fine, thank you very much. Yep.
I do want to note for the record that the job description was reviewed when I took on the job with me, and that at this time, these are just cleanup that was done. So it's not like if the board has not, this current board may not have seen it, and the two remaining board members that were here at that time, yourself, Dr. Holman, and the current board chair. So that way, for the record, it's not like if it hasn't been revisited by the board, and it was at one point.
Well, and just to clarify, those two board members were actually responsible for not signing the correct document about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. So it is our fault that we're here. But yes, this is more a bookkeeping item than anything.
Yeah, and if there's other changes that we want to make, I guess we would just update the document.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Would you like to consider this time any changes? And we're welcome to do that or update at this time.
Well, I know this is the recommendation from the HR department. I'm not sure if the board is really the one who should be designing this for you, for the CEO position. So one thing, and I guess I'll just mention it, not that it needs to be changed now, it may or may not change in the future, was just the liaison with the city, right? I think I didn't see anything related to being the contact with the city. That's one of the key roles.
Yes, one of the administrative duties of the chief administrative officer within her job description happens to be the liaison with the city, and that was something that was discussed with the board at the time of taking on the job, that I would be hiring an executive team. Now, this board so chooses that for me to be the sole contact amongst the duties, then I need to relook into what other additional duties I need to take on. But yes, when possible, I am involved in every single contact with the city are copied on, but I have delegated some of that task on to my chief administrative officer.
Sure, and I think from my view, it doesn't necessarily need to sit with you. I just didn't see anything in this particular one, and I think from the board, we don't really get in, we don't have any responsibility for the other executive roles.
Okay.
So that's why I'm bringing it up. And then the other one was on the 10 and 15 year. I guess the board voted on that. I don't know that it has to be 15.
So that was,
Seems
that
like a
was
lot.
that was to better align the job descriptions that we have for the other executive team members, as that was revisited at some point in the recent history, and so really just to keep
Yeah.
everything in line.
Yeah, maybe, I guess just for my learning, I can get a copy of the other execs and I can see
Okay.
the bigger picture and, you know, how some of the responsibilities are managed across the different roles.
Now, I'm going to put words in your mouth, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. You're more interested in maybe not making her the chief contact for the city, but, you know, just responsible for our overall relationship with the city?
No, well, what I'm saying is, from the board perspective, I think we have more control, if you will, on the responsibilities for the CEO role than the other ones. I mean, we can make recommendations, but it's not, I'm not defining what Mike or, you know, the other roles are doing. I just think it's an important item. It should be somewhere.
Yeah.
And if, as a board, I don't have control over the other ones, like, well, I didn't even know it was there. All I'm saying is, for me, that's important, and I didn't see it here from the general roles and responsibilities that were listed.
So there are two that may satisfy your question here. I'm looking at duty number 11 and duty number 12. Number 11 reads, represents the utilities interests at local, state, and national level on matters dealing with policy, energy, water, environmental, and other issues affecting the utilities' interests. And number 12 represents the utility on government and regulatory agencies, boards, councils, and commissions. I'm not sure if that would suffice with the city's involvement in either of those two, or if you want something dedicated specifically to the city, then that's something we could certainly look into.
Yeah. Again, I'm not asking for a change at the moment. I can read some of,
Okay.
you know, the other roles and see if that's any clearer. But for me, I did go through this in detail before. That could be it, but is not specifically stating, you know, the city of Brownsville.
Mr. Martinez, there's also another policy that's not included in here. This is just a job description that does address what you're talking about. And if we want to revisit this item and go on to the others, and maybe Joe can look it up and print you a copy, and I realize it's not part of your packet at this time, and it may address some of the considerations that you
Yeah.
all are talking about. And at this time, and the reason I'm asking is, would it be something that would be board adopted and approved at the next board meeting? So this is the time that we would be taking it over there.
Yeah, no. Well, I think as a board, we can bring up topics at our discretion. So I don't want to hold this up. I mean, if it's just a clerical thing, yeah, go ahead and approve it. I don't have anything against it. I was just asking those questions.
Understood?
Yeah, so
Although
I wouldn't hold anything, I wouldn't hold this up and get it approved from my side.
Well, I mean, I think if we could get Mr. Martinez those documents, I can guarantee he will not be the only person that would find that interesting. So I think that's a good idea. And at
Okay.
least then we can talk about it at the next board meeting and, you know, bare knuckle fight or something, who knows? But yeah,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Okay, well, with that, we have no action, right? No. Okay, now we'll move on to item number 2, presentation and discussion of the proposed implementation of merit adjustments for fiscal year 2025. And Sergio?
That's right. Good afternoon, Chairman, board members. My name is Sergio Delgadillo. I'm the Compensation and Benefits Manager, report to the HR Division under the current direction of Ms. Constanza Minor, Chief Administrative Officer. Today I will be presenting this item in the following item 3, number 4. So I will provide an overview of the merit program. We will discuss the program's key objectives, general boundaries, eligibility criteria, move into the implementation phase. And then I would definitely like to hear your feedback and, most importantly, continue to have your support. Let me see if this works. Perfect. So our merit program is supported by Policy 7, which in general states that following the performance appraisal, compensation increases may be recommended within the boundaries of our pay structure and our financial capacity, meaning that any adjustment to pay will be within the pay grade a position is slotted to, and of course, depending on the budget that has been established for the purpose. As well, the committee within their charter had it to our benefit to include this as a responsibility where this charter is tasked with recommending a budget for performance appraisal increases. So our merit program aims to connect employee efforts to pay, boost productivity, increase morale, and job satisfaction. That's what we have outlined there as employee engagement. By using clear metrics for merit increases, this program seeks to foster transparency and trust, reducing dissatisfaction and the adverse effects of compression. So we wanted to make sure that we came up with a very clear-cut way for employees to understand where they land and what increases to expect based on their performance. So as we go through this process, you'll find that that is one of the key objectives that we think we manage to reach. The program also aligns employees with the company's strategic objectives and values, promoting culture of continuous improvement, ties directly to our annual performance appraisal process. So as mentioned just earlier, we have a performance appraisal policy. Based on the outcome of that process, it's that we tie this merit program. So kind of a repeat, this is based on employees exceeding performance. It is a funded action, so we have an approved budget item that includes funding for this program. It is determined by individual appraisals. That means that it's a result of the individual employee being appraised on their performance for fiscal year 2024. And the merit compensation is implemented as an increase to employees' hourly pay. This is for this time around. There have been thoughts of maybe changing the structure. For the eligibility criteria, we are establishing that employees who are out of probation, that is 6 months into employment, will be eligible for this merit. It excludes directors and executives, and employees must meet that threshold that was set for excellence, or our excellence measures, as you'll see we're calling it on our next slide. So we had many discussions on what the excellence measure should look like. At the end, we set it at 33% of competencies rating as excellence. So for this purpose, for non-manager roles or non-supervisory roles, we had 12 competencies being rated. For employees who reach or who were rated in at least 4 of those competencies with excellence, then that means they have met that threshold. For management, they had 18 competencies, or functional areas, better said, so it's the same measure. If they measure 33% of those, then they have reached the excellence threshold. We believe that encouraging high performance with unrealistic standards, it's not going to take us anywhere, so balancing high expectations with realism promotes motivation and avoids discouragement. Employees are often stronger in different areas. This model acknowledges exceptional performance in key competencies while ensuring a solid baseline in all areas. So at the end, it allows employees to continue to develop and continue to strive to meet excellence measures in other areas. By setting the benchmark in the requiring excellence 1/3 of competencies, employees are encouraged to develop expertise while maintaining the competency in other areas. And at the end, we want to make sure that it aligns with our organizational goals. So we could potentially, based on the direction set by the executive team, we can potentially encourage the skills in a certain capacity so that we can align with those goals better. So jumping a little bit ahead of the performance appraisal scores. So you're going to see that low percentage did not meet expectations rate. That means that either they fail in one capacity or multiples, where you have around 30 employees ranking between 5 to 7 score. Then you have the vast majority, 63.8% of employees ranking between a 7 and an 8, or 7.99. And then our last score, where you have 120 scoring around 8 to 9, 41, 9 to 10, and then we had one employee scoring a 10. So that would be the distribution. This committee had asked us to not use a bell curve process, or a vitality, if we want to call it, process. So we didn't do that. We just set the excellence measures as we measured before. What is it that we want to do? What is fair? How can we have our employees, continue to exceed and reach that excellence threshold? So that did not happen. Of course, it is similar to that 20, 70, 10 that typically we see within those bell curves, but that was definitely not the methodology used for this purpose. So the percentage increase will be proportionally determined based on the score of the employee, where I said before that we wanted to make sure that we had transparency. The merit distribution scale is from 8 to 10, where we set our excellence measure. And the increase would be anywhere from a 2 to a 6%. The next table is going to show exactly what employees can expect based on the score they were giving and what increase they can see, where you have, again, and I'm just going to jump to the next one. You have your majority of your employees receiving in between a 2 and a 3%. That's 51% of the employees. That's the score where they landed, and then it starts shrinking until we get to the highest percentage given. Do we have any questions? So far, I'm just asking.
So we expect roughly 33% of our employees to get merit increase of some sort, right?
Yes, 30.5% of our employees
there we
will get
go.
an increase.
Just under a third. Okay.
So the 8 to 10 get an increase, and then the 63.8% don't get an increase?
Do not get an increase.
For a merit increase.
Merit.
We'll be hearing a COLA one
Okay.
soon.
And then the 5.7 definitely won't get a,
Yes, and what we've done, of course, is that we reach out to management, ask them exactly what's going on with those employees that rated below that 7, ask them to please provide the path, and then, of course, offer the support that we can as HR to help them exceed those expectations. There's no bell curve. We do not believe that we need to end their employment, but rather help them be successful.
yeah. Yeah, my general comment, it just seems a little too mathy. I mean, it's good because we're public, everything has to be transparent, but as a manager from different levels, yeah, sometimes you want to have flexibility to reward, your top performers. But I'm okay with it. It's just a comment, it's a little
Comment.
too stringent for what I would prefer to function within, an organization that I would like to function within. Does that make
Understood.
sense?
It does make sense, and we went through a lot of models just to
Yeah.
make sure that we got it right. And
No, it was very comprehensive. I mean,
Yeah.
every single
yeah, and our key
percent
challenge
is,
was to make sure that
yeah.
we were able to be very transparent.
I just don't know, for example, if you get a merit increase of 2.999, that's not in the calculation there. You only have 2 nines. I'm kidding.
Gotcha.
Joke.
Yeah. We did up to 4
Never show
decimals,
decimal
really.
points to an engineer.
So, just continuing, the slide shows the merit implementation distribution by area. You can see in this slide exactly what percentage of the budget was allocation to each one of the major divisions, and the employees per each one of the major operational areas who would be receiving a merit. So it has been over 10 years since the last merit implementation. So it's rained. Not enough, but it's rained. And we've learned many valuable lessons. It is crucial to provide training to improve objectivity and fairness in the performance evaluation process, for sure. We also understand that HR and all management must play an active role in providing constant feedback to employees. And most important, that this program is essential to support a healthy workforce that is motivated, encouraged, and continue developing and remains accountable. I would like to request the continued support of this merit program to this committee, and more specifically for this committee to recommend the inclusion of a budget for performance-based compensation for fiscal year 2025.
Yeah, I agree that there should be a merit increase component, and I think this is a really good start, very thorough.
When you present this to the board, I don't think we have to vote on this. We will both, I think, give resounding yays. Yeah,
Yeah, we'll support
we
it.
support this. This is a good thing. You know, one request, and I don't know the smart way to do this, but when we start thinking about folks in management positions and what kind of merit increase or what kind of performance goals they've hit and merit increase they're going to get, can we also somehow intelligently account for how they've managed to fill open slots? You know, I know I've heard cases of highly qualified individuals not getting called back. And so just something so we have a little bit more of a carrot/stick for filling some of these positions and going through, and I know how much of a hassle this can be, but going through open resumes and making sure, you know, you understand and you disposition them correctly and all. Just a small request. And then a second just mention, well, we'll start with the question, is how much of this merit increase is for the board? That's important. We all of us, and you know, are not employees of the utility. We do this on a volunteer basis, which means that hopefully everybody in this room is an employee of the utility. You know, we're doing this for you. This is because this is your utility. We want to keep you guys here and doing good work you're doing. So please feel free to you know, feedback what you think of this, if we're going in the right direction or not. Again, this is your utility, not ours. So we just happen to benefit from the power and water. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do want to thank the board members that are here, thank you for your continued support on the merit program. I know that you all supported a COLA, cost of living adjustment for the entire organization. And so in discussing with that was something that Dr. Holman, you actually mentioned we need to have something, a merit program, and I think Mr. Martinez, both of you or several of you at the board level has said there should be some sort of a merit. And so this is one of the things that we included in the budget process, and as a percentage of when implementation, we realized we started 6 months ago, but the intent was always 6 months later to make sure that we had everything and all the documentations. Once we have a form and a program, and if you heard the presentation, it took 10 years to get to where we are right now, and we had a 3-phase approach in making sure that we had everybody up to a living wage, up to you know, local compensation that met other competitors' salaries, and then from there, job penetration. And Sergio has done a tremendous job in mathematically to make sure that we are being fair and responsibly implementing throughout the organization. But once again, thank you all for your dedication.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank
You
you.
can sit down now, Sergio.
I can.
And presentation and discussion of the 2025 internal market study and its preliminary findings. And Sergio, can you walk on up? Oh, here we go.
So you're going to have me here for one more item aside from this one.
We're happy to have you.
Right, well, as technology continues to evolve at a very rapid pace, it is revolutionizing industries and creating new opportunities while also posing challenges in terms of skill requirements and the workforce demand. Currently, the global increase in energy demand is driving significant changes in the energy sector, necessitating of innovative solutions and skilled professionals to manage and optimize its resources. For utilities, the SCADA systems are playing a crucial role in this transformation. Offering enhanced control and monitoring capabilities are essential to our business. Amidst these developments, the competition for talent has become fiercer than ever, with companies striving to attract and retain employees who possess this expertise. And that is exactly who we've become as BPUV. We have a very strong workforce, and we're proud to say that we have well-trained and knowledgeable employees. This presentation will explore and review the preliminary findings from an internal market study for jobs that directly relate to the elements I just discussed, which you can see it's had to do with the energy industry. So this is like that I can, of course, move really fast through. Market study, what we do is that we select some benchmarks. We ask for a lot of information. We review this information. This time around, our survey instrument was around 49 pages long. So we did hear back from the respondents and about the size of the inquiry. But of course, we wanted to make sure that we had a lot of information. The intent is that we can provide a good insight so that we can really have a strategic decision-making happen. So BPUV as a multi-utility provider requires a highly skilled and unique workforce. In today's competitive environment, retaining and attracting this talent is crucial for our success, and compensation plays a pivotal role. It's a key factor for employee satisfaction and motivation. So of course, the study is going to focus on ensuring that BPUV's compensation package is competitive within the industry to attract professionals. We also want to make sure that we maintain equity, ensuring that there's fair treatment across all levels and alike jobs. Make sure that we have alignment in our compensation package with the strategic objectives of this of BPUV. And of course, our ultimate goal, as I keep saying, attract and retain top talent. What jobs are we going to be looking into? We have, in general, line work. That would include every position within that family, starting from electrical maintenance worker, moving all the way to our certified foremans, energy system operators, all levels, supervisory and control data acquisition. That has a vast majority of positions, mostly and geared both to the water and electrical side, NERC compliance, and IT. Our benchmarks. So as I said, we go out to the state, we figure out who looks like us. What we did is that we tapped into ERCOT, we looked at what municipalities were part of it. We looked at what utilities offer similar services like we do, that is, carried all three services. We try to keep within size. You'll see that Austin is kind of an outlier, but in general, size was considered as well. The cities that you see that have a start are those who have responded to us. We continue to have conversations with them just to have better clarity on some of the responses. We have other cities that have started to provide some of the information that we asked, for example, Denton. So that's why I'm calling this presentation preliminary findings. I will move fairly fast, but please feel free to stop me if you like. We divided our study in multiple sections. First, we want to make sure that we understand the compensation structure, fringe benefits, and working conditions. Because once we get to pay, all these elements are really relevant to understanding if we're comparing apples to apples. So what we found is most utilities, including BPUV, use a tier pay structure based on experience, skills, and tenure. That's exactly the question that was asked and answered. Pay review frequency, pay is generally reviewed annually and adjusted considering performance, tenure, inflation rates. That was 83% of the respondents saying that. BPUV does not have a fixed calendar for pay reviews, so that is very relevant. Certification pay is offered by 50% of the respondents. 33% elected others, and 17% are promoted if there's vacancies. We do not offer certification pay per se, but we do have some job families where certification plays a role in promoting employees or career advancement. For example, our operators, A, B, Cs, and Ds. As they get certified, they move up. But what this question is asking is, if somebody holds above the qualifications for a position, let's say they have a PMP or they hold a master's, but the position only requires a bachelor's, do they get additional pay? That's what the question is saying, and that's kind of the response that we found. So some companies do have stronger certification pay programs than others. It does promote, of course, further education and certification. So it's good to consider that. Within compensation structure, we have 50% of the respondents talking about longevity pay. So just the fact of being in the company carries some weight. Of course, we are trying to seek clarification. It almost seems that it's tied to also performing. So yes, they'll see a component as long as they meet certain threshold. And then, of course, there's a merit additionally to that. Incentive annual pay, we found that 83% of respondents do not have that. So that's kind of part of the compensation package. The one that does have it, we're trying to seek more information to see if we can have a view of it. A merit program and hourly rate increases. 60% of the respondents apply the merit as a rate increase. Promotion and career advancement. So we found that career advancement is 50%, it's competitive for 50% of the respondents. Also, we found that internal candidates are given preference for promotions before considering external candidates by 33% of the respondents. Some, what they do is they have a combination. They have program-based for some key roles. That was another 33%. Internal candidates compete with external talent every time, 17% of respondents, which is what we do as well, and then 17% elect other. Mind you that this process we just recently adopted, and we have been very successful in our internal advancement process. I think our employees, when they're applying, there's more than one skill that they exercise, and of course, we've seen that in a lot of cases, they are selected for the positions. And you've seen those in the numbers that we have in internal hires. Filling vacancies, most utilities fill vacancies through a combination of internal and external hiring. That was 50% of the respondents, same as BPUV. Moving into benefits, and again, I'll move really quick. What we found is that we are very similar when it comes to offering benefits. Most of the utilities that responded offer an employer-paid benefit for the employee, and they subsidize a part of the dependents' insurance. Some offer a bigger plan than others. That's one of the things we're currently exploring as well. Same for dental insurance. You can see that we are offering 100% of the employee, subsidizing some of the dependents. We have others that are subsidizing a little bit more, some a little bit less, but at the end, I think that we're pretty competitive. Moving into supplemental benefits, I can see that there's improvement specifically in that middle row. I try to highlight green so it's easier to see, but we are very competitive. We offer pretty much the same. We just have those 5 that are offering a little bit more when it comes to short-term disability paid by the employer. We offer long-term disability. But again, things to consider. Preliminary findings, when it comes to retirement, all of us are very similar. We offer pretty much similar benefits. We have a 7% contribution from the employee and a 200% or a 2-to-1 matching. Austin, they have their own retirement systems. That's a little bit different. They contribute a little bit more and they get 100% matching. Annual leave days. So it's a little bit of a busy slide, and I apologize for that. The columns that you see highlighted, those add up to max days and minimum days. So we are pretty much competitive. Denton is kind of a lot higher because they're giving additional days per years served, so they could add up to potentially more than even the other utilities. In the midst, we do land on the higher end rather than the lower end of those days, but pretty much in the 40 range.
So can you go back on that one?
Yes.
So what would be a low number and a high number for PUB?
You see 45 days, which is a combination of all those 3, and then 48 days.
Okay.
It shouldn't
'Cause
say
it says
hours, I'm
there's-
sorry.
yeah.
It's days. That's a mistake. Good catch, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
So benefits in terms of professional development here, we did see that we have a little bit of a setback. As you can see, BPUV offers a benefit of 60% for undergraduate. We found that a lot of the utilities are offering 100% of that benefit, and then they also carry graduate education. So maybe something to consider as we continue to look into our benefits and improve them. That also helps with development, helps with engagement, helps to attract top talent. It's very commonly that we hear these questions when we're hiring. Do you have an employee education program? Do you help with school, especially for the graduate level? So something to consider. Again, the idea of this survey at this point is to understand the benefits that are being offered and then how they relate to the pay that we're seeing for this job, families that we're studying. But again, it gives us a good insight of what's going on in the market in similar utilities. So working conditions, again, this is also a loaded one. On-call duties, standby duties, shift work, and hazardous pay. So that is employees that are asked to stay standby, do they get compensated, and how? So this only tells us a yes or a no. We do have on-call. We pay our employees around 2 hours when they're called back, up to 2 hours for their on-call. What we found is, and we're learning more about this, we're seeking for a lot of clarification. A yes and a no doesn't tell a lot of the story. Some offer an hourly rate. Some, what they offer is double rate. So for example, if you're going to be a standby, you're going to get a premium of $1.50 for each hour you are in standby. While others will get nothing, but if they're called, they're going to get double pay. So they have a combination of ways to acknowledge the time that the employee is dedicating to being in standby or being available for a callback. Same with shift work or shift differential. So again, learning a little bit more, but what is relevant is that we're seeing that this is happening, and of course this impacts pay considerably when we're talking about the job families that we study, because most of them do shift work, are in standby, and get called back. So compensation benchmarks. What you see there is, out of the different job families that we went out and looked for, we had 7 titles within line work. You can see 7 different titles within the energy system, 6 titles, and that is from the apprentice level to the operator 1, senior operator, lead operator, or supervisor, manager. So that's the job descriptions that touches on dispatcher. How many good benchmarks we had so we had good benchmarks for most titles, if you can see for line work, and then what is the total number of benchmarks that we received. Is that clear with that slide? It's just kind of providing some of the response. That slide is, we're hoping that it's going to change as we get more information and as we clarify some of those benchmarks that we have. One of the most challenging, it's SCADA. At the end, titles don't matter. What matters is the actual essential duties that you see listed in a job description. So some of those benchmarks that we got the responses when they're saying they're pretty good, but we need to see the job description so that we can make sure that we're comparing job duties and they're doing the same, and that we're comparing the actual qualifications for the position, experience requirements, certifications. So that makes it a very good match. So we're still going through that. We did wanted to make sure that you see what we're seeing and share a little bit of what's going on, because it has been a big endeavor.
Yeah, I don't know that I understand this. So just for clarification, for example, the line work that you said there, the 34, was that the respondents?
Yes.
The number of respondents that covered that particular job title?
So we had, let's go through that number. That's a good example. So we have 7 different jobs, and I spoke about having the electrical maintenance worker, our ground worker, our line worker, non-certified, apprentice line worker, non-certified line worker, certified line worker, and then our foreman certified. We also have a programs coordinator, so that would account for our titles. And then we got a good benchmarks. That means that we receive good information that's applicable to all 7 titles. So that's good. And the combination of different job descriptions that we received that match accounted or add up to 34 benchmarks. So 7 divided by 34, that's around 5 per each one of those job titles that we got. So that's fairly good. We have good information. We can use that information to make a good determination if we are within market or we are a little bit away from market. Some of the others, we have less, where we need more information to make sure that we can provide a fair recommendation based on the data we're getting. Is that clear?
Yes, that clarifies. Thank you.
Sure thing.
So I just want to emphasize that the reason these are the targeted groups were the ones that we were seeing the changing in the market, and we needed to make sure what did our previous compensation study miss, or was there increase in this particular market that we are in. And so that's very important for y'all to understand why were these selected, and there's data behind all of this and to why we selected to versus, wait a minute, why are we looking at the water, wastewater? Why are we specifically targeting these areas?
So when you say market, you mean
Local.
local market, so
Local,
for
national,
us-
state. We're not just competing. We have line workers here that can go work anywhere throughout the United States. So,
I
but
gu-
we
I guess
also
the
local like Magic
change-
Valley and AEP.
The change means turnover, that we've had turnover in that category within PUB? And
Yes,
that's wh-
or we
That's why we're
manage-
focusing on those,
Yes.
on these categories, okay. So you just want to make sure, since you're seeing the changeover or turnover, you want to make sure that we're specifically addressing those to make sure that we're competitive in the market.
Exactly, that there isn't a big gap, and that's why we're losing them. So pay is one element. There's more elements within engagement. As we saw the benefits, there's a lot more that can attract and retain talent. But in this case, we're focusing on pay. We did went through benefits because we want to make sure we are comparing the same when we look at pay. So we noticed that benefits are very similar across, some better than ours, some not in some categories. But in general, we're pretty comparable. When it comes to pay, what you see there, and it says no cost of living index adjustment, that's just raw data. That is the pay that we're seeing in the market versus the pay that we are offering locally. What is the big difference? So you can see there, one of the findings that we saw is that when we look at market, we typically take market as the middle of a pay grade. So if we say that a position is paying between, let's say, 40,000 and 60,000, then 50,000, it's the mid, and then that's considered the market. So one of the things we're measuring is, when we look at the market, is the actual pay matching the market? And we found that pretty closely. If you can see there, that would be your first gray column that has a percentage, around 102% matching. So that means that they're a little bit above market, but they're all paying very close to that market benchmark. What that means to us, for example, is where we have most of our employees, that is, where are they getting paid in the range penetration versus what we're seeing in the market. We have maybe 80% of our workforce at the first quarter in their pay grade, that is 1 quarter below market. So that puts a little perspective of why this value is relevant. The next set of information that you see there is, how about the actual pay, BPUB's mid or market versus the market that we're finding. So we see that there's a 15% setback. We're around 85% of market, so we have a little bit of a shortage there. And then at the end, actual pay that we're finding in the market versus actual pay that we have for this position, and that is around 18%. Mind you, this is direct data. There's no cost of living index adjustment. Maybe you can find the coffee here for $5 in average, whereas in Austin, it's going to cost you $5.60 or $6 or $7. So that adjustment is not done. There's, of course, a mechanism to assess and to determine it, but that doesn't include any of that. That's just raw data. So what that looks like, if we wanted to close that gap, it's around $1.2 million in cost. The next set of information,
Close the gap to 100%?
yes, that means to match our pay with the direct pay that we're seeing from the market. So how much everybody else is getting paid in the average pay for the cities versus how much our employees are average pay here.
Can you go back to the previous one?
Yes, sir.
So let's, again, just line workers is the first one, so. So here what we're seeing is the mid pay for us is 80,204. Our average pay is 74,100. If we look at the market, then that is 88,000. So in order for us to match that at 100%, the total on the next slide, the 1.2 per year,
So
would be for the number of line workers, plus all the other ones.
you're right on target. So if we see at the second column where it says market actual average, we see 87, correct? And then when we look at BPUV actual average, we see 74. So the difference between those two, it's around 13,000. So 13,000 times 34 would get you the closing the gap number. So you are right on target. That's exactly how that would work.
So Sergio went out and looked at the data that I had been hearing from other executives from the other respective public power CEOs. And what is happening, which the data now proves here, is they're foregoing entry level, even though, and they're paying at midpoint. And that is what is accounting here, the gap that we are 16%, even though the range of the salary is showing you that we're paying within the range, we're actually paying less than where these individuals will end up. They may end up locally at the neighboring utilities, or they may end up in other utilities. We may use Austin, let's say, as an average. However, there's other areas in the surrounding areas that are much more affordable living, and they are targeting, you know, in other utilities that may have a better cost of living. And by the way, you know, we have a couple of relocations, people that came from my executive team from larger cities, and they didn't see a big increase, you know.
Yeah, so, and that's what I wanted to show next. So
Okay.
this is cost of living, without any cost of living adjustments. When we follow and we do a cost of living adjustment and we apply those percentages that are found, those numbers shrink a lot. And you can see that that gap separates to around 6%. So the numbers changed a lot. The question is that we are really losing our employees to the cities, and that is the pay we're competing with. So for sure, more thought needs to be placed in this. I need more information so we can provide a good amount, but it definitely will land in between what you see there as a 300,000 and 1.2 million, where we can find a fair, I guess, allocation of resources, and we can close as much as we can this gap to make sure we're competitive and we continue to attract and retain our employees in this specialized fields. This is, as we said, the strategic direction we're following. They're key to our business, so we need to make sure we look at them. Should I proceed?
Yeah, so this would fall under the, I know we talked about merit, so that's another category.
Yes.
This would be considered cost of living adjustment?
No, sir. This would be, and I'm jumping a little bit and I'll come back and forth. So as a general practice, market studies are recommended to happen. What I've seen as a strategy is that they happen in a rotational rolling basis. You study a fifth or a fourth of your workforce so they can, in 4 years, make sure you've looked at all your workforce, all of your different positions, and you're paying them in alignment with market. When you have strategies such as inflationary adjustment and you have strategies such as merit pays, you tend to have less gaps because you're addressing your workforce on a yearly basis. So you study, you balance, you fact check a little bit, and sometimes if the market is, there's a big driver, then you'll see some increases, but for the most part, they can keep steady. One of the findings that we saw for these job families is that they do an annual market. For example, line work, it's revised annually by the different utilities that we went to. Say, no, we're struggling as well. And what we're doing is that every year we talk to each other, we find out what the rate is, and we make sure that we adjust so that we don't lose our employees and they don't jump to other places. So again, this is just about making sure that we're in line with the market and that our compensation remains fair. There's example in other areas, maybe if you think of cashiers, as we're moving, and I'm talking about PPUE, it's general knowledge, right? But if we move into automation, there's less and less cashiers being needed, so you can see a drop in demand and perhaps even a drop in pay. As that workforce starts to shrink, whenever you need a cashier, then the market is going to flip and is going to ask for a higher pay for that field. So that's how it plays, pretty much like offer and demand. Right now, there's a big demand for all of this work because, of course, the energy industry, it's rising, it's growing. We see more and more and more energy being needed. I mean, it's not hidden that we have more and more electric cars, for example. So all that, it's trickling into this.
Yeah. Sorry. So this is just sharing the market data with us. It's not really making a recommendation at this time.
At this point, what I wanted to make is this board aware that we are working very hard on making sure that we're looking into the market, that we want to keep our pay competitive, and potentially we're going to come back to this committee and ask for some money.
Okay.
Because we'll need to implement the market
Yep.
study.
So would you say that the ideal situation would be an annual inflation plus merit adjustment?
Yes, the ideal situation would be an annual merit, an annual inflationary adjustment, and then potentially a market adjustment for a segment of the company, rolling over a fourth of our positions every year. So right now we're looking at the energy. We have to determine which one of those we need to look next year just because of what we're finding. But next year, we probably want to make sure that we're looking into the water operations. And then next year, probably looking into the administrative side workforce, and then next year, cycling perhaps to our wastewater operations, and then loop back again into energy. So that would be the preferred scenario, which would help us make sure that we are relevant and competitive with the industry.
Okay.
So I had conclusions, but you nailed them. That's exactly where I was heading to, definitely. Do you all have any questions on this?
No real questions. Very informative, very comprehensive, same as the other presentation. Yeah, and you have our support. I think we just need to, just get more of this information out to the rest of the board and get feeling, from them as well.
Thank you, and that's exactly what we need. We need your support and make sure that they know what's going on.
I completely agree, and I do want to point out one thing that was mentioned, making this kind of an annual thing, making this, hey, we're going to do this every year, and have the board, see this every year. Making that part of the policy will be great. So, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the next item. And it is a presentation and discussion of proposed inflationary adjustment for the fiscal year 2026 budget. Second.
Yes, sir. Again, it's me. So I'd like to start this presentation with two articles from CVO with the Congressional Budget Office and then SHRM. While inflation, according to several news hubs, is hard to predict, and only but a few venture to forecast an end-of-year number, this article from the Congressional Budget Office, the COV, dated March 2025, provides an outlook projecting a steady 2.3% increase per year, beginning 2026, as things finish settling down to 2025. So you will see that there's a lot of predictions. There's a lot of news, hubs that are pushing a number, some more serious than others. But an official source is hard to get. However, the Congressional Budget Office has released this publication when they are foreseeing a 2.3% inflationary increase for the next 30 years. That's what it has, yes, 25 to 55. So it allows us to understand a little bit more of the budget requirements that we'll have, just based on this particular information. They are foreseeing that there's a little bit of settlement still, as they're saying. We're still, believe it or not, they're touching the pandemic. And I guess that's what they're pushing into that article. The other news article that I thought it was relevant was SHRM. So that other one focuses on inflation, but rather than the actual numbers, it focuses on the sentiment. How are employees perceiving this and how is it affecting them? So of course, 43% of the employees that were surveyed said that this has caused extreme or significant impact on their personal financial situation. Silverlight is that around 36% of the survey employees believe in their companies, and they believe that they're going to be fairly adjusted. And then we have another 34% that are not as confident that the adjustment would be fair. So just kind of setting some foundation for the next items in the presentation. So of course, our efforts continue to be dedicated to attracting and retaining top talent. Well, compensation, it's a key focus for this particular object. We understand that attracting and retaining goes beyond monetary rewards. It is about ensuring the well-being of our employees and maintaining our competitive edge in the industry. As you see there, yes, compensation is going to impact all of the areas. Inflationary adjustment is going to impact the last two. Having a competitive pay, staying competitive with our salaries, helping us when we come to a market to make sure that we're not as far, and also helps maintain the earning power of our employees. So the inflationary adjustment is directly linked to maintaining the employees' earning and buying power. That's what it is. Overall, there's upward price mobility or movement into goods and services, and that is impacting the individual economies. So while you had something costing $7, like a dozen of eggs, right now you're going to find it for $12. And of course, there's more than just inflation, but that's a very common example that we see nowadays. So this is about making sure that our employees maintain their budget power based on the inflation that we're seeing. What I have here is it's an example. Last we came to this committee, it was on April 2024, and we showed you numbers of the separation that we had in between February 2023 and April 2024. We were around 4.2% back then. That year closed at around 4.9%. And I know that with the support of this committee and the board, we were able to manage a 4% inflationary adjustment that was implemented October 1st, 2025. This example is showing that particular gap from April 2024 to March 2025, where we see that now it's increased by almost 2%, whereas an employee that was making $14.92 back in April 2024, if we don't adjust that pay, it'll be the same as they were making $14.62 today. And to make sure that we remain competitive and they keep their buying power based on the CPI, they will need to be adjusted to $15.21. So of course, with the passing of time, if employees' earnings are not adjusted to maintain their buying power, then less and less they will be able to afford their goods and services, and their tenure with BPUV begins to translate into a cost or loss, because their pay is not moving. Rates are predicted to continue to increase. So that's what we'll see next. So on the left side, you can see some of the considerations that we have. We talked about COV's projections at 2.3% for the next 30 years. We saw that BLS CPI inflation calculator is showing a 1.299 difference as of March 2025, and different sources land or believe that the inflation is going to move up to 2.9% by the end of the year. So what we are asking is for a budget to an adjustment up to a 3%. This is conservative move. That would be the max increase based on the direct numbers that we get from BLS that would like to receive. That translates into salaries around 1.1, and then benefits, which is around a 29.6% rate, totaling up to 1.5 million. The second request that we have for this board is for an ongoing budget allocation for inflationary compensation adjustments so that we can continue to support and remain competitive. And with that, I conclude the presentation and likely go back.
Yeah, so the recommendation is including in the budget a 3% annual increase
Yes, sir.
year over year.
No. For 2020,
6.
2025, yeah, 2025 inflation to be applied 2026 fiscal year. That would be the recommendation. Following years, if COV's projections are accurate, likely we would be asking for 2.3%. And that would be the max budget that we think we're going to get to. Again, as we're looking, and I was trying to see a formal projection for the end of this year, there isn't anything official. There's just different news hubs that are saying on their financial sites how much they're predicting, ranging between 2.6 and 2.9, closing. So that's where we're saying if we could entertain up to a 3% to just be adjusted specifically to what BLS report says. Up to 3%. If it says 4, well, it's going to be 3%.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think when we go to the board, we really want to be very clear about where those numbers will come from, what the final decision will be made on the actual COLA increase. And then I really like the idea of making this an official annual process. I think that's great. Both this and the merit increase. And so,
Are you in support of a policy addresses this, that this inflationary adjustment be done based on, let's say, on some of the offices or information, and that we can bring for the full board discussion, so then that way this would be, Mike will then get it as part of this budgetary process that this happens, so he can account to ensure that we can afford it, and because what impacts today impacts everything in the future.
I'm for.
Yeah, I think the policy can be, for us to evaluate an inflationary adjustment. I think similar to what we're doing now, basically you're getting data, right? Because it may be more or it may be less, depending on, what's happening out in the economy. Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I mean, it could be 3, it could be 4, it could be 0, but at least we're having the conversation. The other side of it, and we haven't really, I mean, you kind of touched on it from the merit side, is making sure that we have a way to evaluate, the performance, right? And that, I think, is a little bit more complicated. Even though you have it laid out, like I said, pretty comprehensively, I think the evaluation part is maybe a little bit more challenging. How are you going to be evaluating this role, et cetera, right? How are you going to come up with the actual metrics, if you will? So that, I don't know if that exists or not, but I would say that has to also be developed, pretty soon if it's not there. The inflation adjustment is separate, but I think it's going to lead to the same thing, right? We need to have the performance defined so that we can do both the inflation and the performance at the same time. Does
Okay.
that make sense?
Yes, sir. To tell you the truth, is typically the inflationary adjustments or COLAs do not take into account performance.
Yeah.
It accounts for just a change in the market and the pricing, and that's the reason why it's specifically not included. But what I can see is that you want a holistic approach when you have both elements, and then that helps encourage our employees to perform better as they're going to get their COLA as well. So it kind of sounded to me like you want to do that.
Yeah.
There is a lot of lessons learned through this appraisal process. Again, it's been 10 years, so we were doing our performance appraisal. They were just not tied to an increase. And as we've gone through this loop, we see that there's a lot of need for training and calibration on how to assess and evaluate. So again, you're right on the dot. And we are thinking of some initiatives that will take us there now. So that's something that we need to start doing now, as you just said, pretty soon.
Yeah.
And we are.
I do want to have a clarity is, if we do present a policy to the board, we have the policy chair and the compensation chair. What committee would you like to take that policy? The policy or the compensation? Please let us know, or is there, both of you are here, so both of you, but it's different members of your respective,
Yeah, I mean,
committees.
I think if it's policy, it would have to go through the policy.
okay?
The recommendation can come from us now, and then I'll just put the other hat on, in the other meeting. But yeah, I think it's good. It's just how we word it, I think, is going to be important, right? I don't want to put 3% forever, because that may not be enough, or that may be too much in some years. But I think the important thing is for us to evaluate the inflationary adjustment at a certain time, so we can budget accordingly for, the appropriate year, as we're doing now. So just to make sure we can cement that cycle, and independent of who's here, that will get done.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So you would like to see that as a standalone policy. We would call it cost of living adjustment, where we make sure that it adheres to the CPI, perhaps to you for the South region, and we can tie it to a particular section, maybe July, which is when we start working on our budget, and we always work July to July. That sounds fair?
Yes.
Got it. We'll work on that ASAP. Thank you.
Anything to make Mike's life a little bit harder is welcome.
Mike's like that.
But no, this is a step in the right direction. I know we have reviewed data in the past where, yeah, the cost of living adjustment hadn't happened for something like 10 years. And so I want to make sure that, we're being proactive, and I think, the board would support, that. And of course, we'll have to see, I'm just guessing. But, I think this is a great step forward, so thank you.
I just wanted to add, we could probably set the inflationary adjustment to, say, the lesser of your CPI or 3%, so that way, we're not gonna exceed the 3%. It's just,
Yeah, I mean, y'all go back and look at what makes sense. I know we did have a period of inflation where it was, 6%. So, if we're making this a policy, let's leave some flexibility, but yeah, whatever makes sense.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Oh, now you can actually sit down.
Thank you.
Okay, and with that, I will entertain any, let me see, where are we? Any requests for future items or future meetings?
I think we kind of did already.
Yeah,
And
okay.
so nothing else for now.
So with that, I will call this meeting to a close. It is 5:36, Monday, April 20th.